In the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, we asked communities all across New York City to show us, through art, how our city will make it through. What we found? We will only get through this together, because together we are New York.
Together, we are New York. For more information, visit www.abny.org. Be well!
Good morning, all. It is really an honor and it's really great to see you all this morning. So, tell me, after a year and a half, how does it feel to get up early and attend an ABNY event at 8:30 in the morning? Now, I know for some of you this is a change from putting on your best shirt, walking to your computer, getting on your first Zoom in the morning, but isn't this so much better? Let me hear you. Well, we are really excited to see you, and we are really happy to have you here this morning. And what today signifies to me is the next phase of New York City emerging and returning to the vibrant city we all know and we love. Yes, all right. And the events of the last year and a half really created change for most of the country, including New York City, right? Change in how we view health equity and equality, right? Especially for our poor and BIPOC communities. Change in how we talk about injustice, equality, police brutality, and racism. Change in how we commit to economic growth and stability and wealth in our city. Who needs it and how do we help them? And change in how we hold our elected leadership accountable on the federal, state, and city levels. A lot has changed over the last 2 years. But at ABNY, we also recognize this change. While we continue our signature programs like power events like this morning, like our special briefings and our educational events and our young professional programming and our ABNY Women, right? We understand that the need to expand our programming to incorporate comprehensive and diverse views of the issues and challenges facing New Yorkers and how to help solve public challenges and to make sure that New York City is a better place for all those who live and visit and work in this city. And moving forward, we will continue to strive to do better, investing in the dynamic and diverse people of our city, making sure that we strengthen our neighborhoods and our communities throughout all 5 boroughs, and supporting and advocating for small and large businesses to keep New York City as a leader of innovation. Just look at the work that we've done around the census, right? To make sure that all New Yorkers were seen, were heard, were counted. Just this past June, we partnered with community-based organizations in Chinatown to celebrate Asian history and culture and support small businesses in that community and stand in solidarity with our Asian brothers and sisters. Thank you. And most recently, we kicked off a community-based arts program in partnership with community-based organizations, local artists, and neighborhood stakeholders to create the cultural and celebrate the cultural diversity of New York, its people, and its communities. The promo is playing right outside. If you haven't seen our Together We Are New York campaign, I suggest you go and see it, visit our website. The culmination events to celebrate those are this weekend. But we really want to celebrate all our city has to offer and show off what it means to be a New Yorker. And that brings us to our special guest this morning, someone who stands up for all New Yorkers and has been a fierce advocate for the most vulnerable. And now our chairman, ABNY's chairman, Stephen Rubenstein, will introduce today's special guest. Stephen, over to you.
Thank you, Melva, my awesome partner in this. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. It's good to see you all. It's been a while since we gathered like this, 21 months. In fact, it was January 2020. Feels a little like a lifetime ago. Our speaker at the time was Eric Adams, which turned out to be a prescient choice on our part. We are here back in person, marking the 50th anniversary of the ABNY Power Breakfast. We deliberately chose downtown to be next to Ground Zero as a reminder of an ABNY tradition of standing with New York in our toughest times, as a reminder that our city, our community is resilient, and that we can face our toughest times together to heal, to recover, to honor what we've lost, and set out to shape a positive, an ambitious, and even a better future. Now, I don't have to tell you guys, life has been crazy lately. For far too many people, this time has meant terrible pain and loss. It has reminded us of really how fragile we are and how much further we have to go for to create a system that works for everybody. At the same time, it's also, I think, has reminded us of how nice it is to be in a community with people you like and appreciate the values of our city. I loved hugging people here. Freaked me out a little bit. You guys shouldn't worry, I took a PCR test yesterday, but still. So I just want to say it is an exciting time to be civically engaged. It's an exciting time to be a political wonk. So much has happened, right? And much has changed, and we have more change ahead of us, and I hope all of it for the good as we continue to grow together. So before we turn the stage over to our guest speaker, I'd like to just acknowledge some of the distinguished elected officials and public officials who have joined us here today. I just ask you to please hold your applause until the end. The Queens District Attorney, Melinda Katz, Council members Keith Powers and Carlina Rivera, Assembly members Jessica Gonzalez Rojas, Elisa Heineman, John Liu, Nili Razik, Clyde Vanel, and I also want to mention our CUNY Chancellor, Felix Matos Rodriguez, new ABNY board member. I want to thank you all for being here and for your support of ABNY over the years. In that spirit of passionate and committed public service, our speaker today is somebody worth breaking out of the Zoom room for, Attorney General Tish James. She has dedicated her life to public service, pursuing fairness, equity, and justice for all New Yorkers. She has always been about the people and about doing the hard work. She was a public defender at the Legal Aid Society, representing New Yorkers who could not afford it. She ran the Brooklyn regional office of the New York AG, where she stood up for consumers against predatory businesses. She was a councilwoman, during which time she fought for stronger tenant rights. She was our city's public advocate, where she passed more legislation than all previous public advocates combined, including a pioneering law to address the gender pay gap. And as our AG, she has proven to be fierce In an issue close to our hearts at ABNY, as Melva mentioned, she took on the Trump administration over its efforts to change the 2020 census form, where they tried to add a discriminatory citizenship question intended to discourage undocumented New Yorkers and Americans from being counted. It didn't work. It didn't work because of Tish James. ABNY put 3 years into a census campaign, led by the amazing Melva Miller, and we are so grateful to the AG for her leadership on the census and for partnering with us throughout. The result was that New York City's count grew more accurate, specifically by over 600,000 people, which helped us save a vitally important congressional seat, as well as gain additional federal funding, seems to be as much as $1.8 billion each year moving forward. So thank you for that. Far beyond that, the AG has kept fighting through these challenging pandemic times. She has protected our voting rights. She has fought against unlawful evictions. She has held law enforcement accountable when they have acted inappropriately. And she has taken assertive action and historic action to investigate and fight sexual harassment and discrimination in the workplace. I talked earlier about New York's fighting spirit, and that's what Tish James embodies. In this moment, we're contending with unprecedented challenges. Her ethics and her work ethic make our state more fair and more just for all of us. But the thing I am most struck about her is that she is a happy warrior. She has faith. She has faith in herself. She has faith in us to live up to what this city is. And I really can't thank her enough for that. She is inspiring. She's a bit infectious, but infectious in a good way. Ladies and gentlemen, Attorney General Tish James.
I also want to acknowledge at my table Jennifer Rabb, the president of Hunter College. Please give her a round of applause. So if we could just take a moment of silence for all of those we've lost during this period, all of those we lost as a result of COVID-19, all of those who we sat next to are no longer here today. We lost a number of friends and family members. I don't know about you, but I've been touched personally by COVID. So please join me just in a moment of silence for all of those who have gone on to glory. Thank you. So Eric Adams was here last, and he is the Democratic nominee. And here I am, Letitia James, and so who knows? Don't read anything into that. So good morning, everyone. I want to thank Stephen. Okay, the reporters are already writing. I want to thank Stephen for that warm and kind introduction and for all that he does for our state and for our city. Of course, I want to thank my sister friend, Melva, and all of you in ABNY for having me here today. And thank you for being here. It's a full room, and I appreciate it so much. It's been a year and a half since we've met in person, and so I thank you. I thank all of you who have come here this morning. If you want to understand why this really is the greatest city and the greatest state on earth, it's because of all of you in this room, all of the organizations that ABNY brings together. So again, I humbly want to thank you on behalf of all of the New Yorkers of this great state. So, as we meet today, our state faces historic challenges: COVID, climate change, supporting small businesses, getting our economy moving. And to make that happen, we're going to need government and business to work together. But before I discuss my ideas on how to make this happen, I'd like to address an issue that's been in the news over and over again. The independent investigation into allegations of harassment against Andrew Cuomo and the 168-page report on those allegations. Since that report came out, the former governor has spent a lot of energy criticizing it and me. Until now, I've chosen to take the high road. I've chosen not to respond in detail. But that changes today. So let's begin with some facts. On March 1st of 2021, Governor Cuomo's office referred allegations that he had harassed women to my office for investigation. It was his referral. And I appointed independent investigators from outside of my office because I thought that was the best thing to do because they have the experience. Now, when Mr. Cuomo was the Attorney General, he investigated 2 sitting governors. Let's compare what he did to what I did, or I should say to what my office did. My office began this investigation based on a lawful referral from the governor. By contrast, Mr. Cuomo did not wait for such a referral when he investigated then Governor Eliot Spitzer. My office appointed outside independent investigators. By contrast, Mr. Cuomo used his own staff. The report my office commissioned from the outside investigators took 5 months to complete. By contrast, Mr. Cuomo took 20 days to investigate then Governor Eliot Spitzer. The report my office commissioned from the outside investigators consisted of interviews with 179 people, analysis of more than 74,000 pieces of evidence, and more than 300 pages of evidence, which is already publicly available. And upon conclusion from the 5 district attorneys who are investigating Mr. Cuomo, the transcripts of all of the individuals who we interviewed will be released to the general public and to the press. And that evidence brings me to the people who deserve to be at the forefront of our concern. The women, the young women who entered government because they believe in public service, the women who were harassed. The report lays out in painful detail the treatment that these women were subjected to, and the various laws and rules Mr. Cuomo and his administration broke. Some of these laws Mr. Cuomo championed and signed into law. Mr. Cuomo has a lot to say on these matters, but he has never taken responsibility for his own conduct. He has never held himself accountable for how his behavior affected our state government. So let's not lose sight of what's important. It's not me. It's not Mr. Cuomo, but the survivors of his harassment, the people of our state whose trust he broke, and the people who believed in him, including myself. No one is above the law, and our state can do better moving forward. We've watched over the past few years as New York has been hit by crisis after crisis. The pandemic, climate change, economic upheaval, and the fight for social justice. And at each turn, New Yorkers have needed government to help them thrive. But they haven't had the government they needed. And so allow me to offer some ideas on how I believe that things need to be done differently. First, let me begin with the way that the government works with business. Government has an important role regulating business, and I will never back down on that point. But we need, you need, all of us need rules and regulations that are fair, that are clear, that are predictable. We need rules that make markets stable, businesses confident, and give everyone a fair shot at opportunity. For that, we need a forward-thinking government that is accessible, professional, and data-driven. And that means agencies setting defined goals and measuring success using CompStat-like metric systems. And it also means respecting the state workforce. And so let's begin by taking a hard look at the scores of public authorities and commissions that have been created over the years. I'm not against authorities and commissions. In fact, I was once counsel in the state legislature to the Committee for Public Authorities and Commissions. But it's time to make sure that they are working efficiently and in the best interest of the public. We also need to change how the state executive branch is run. Total power and decision-making cannot be solely in the hands of the executive. Let's take, for example, the Department of Health. When it came time to make life and death decisions about COVID patients, when it came time to share information about COVID deaths, about the safety of our most vulnerable in nursing homes, the question wasn't what's best for New Yorkers, what's best for these vulnerable New Yorkers, our senior citizens who we have a duty to protect and to honor. No, the question was always viewed through the political lens of what's best for some individuals. And as a result, many left the Department of Health. In fact, the Department of Health has been gutted out, and so many staff members have left. And so we need a new culture where we leave policy to the professionals, where we give them autonomy to perform and listen to their expertise, and leave politics outside the door. But none of this can happen without ethics underpinning our entire government structure. First, we need to abolish the weak ethics watchdog we have now and replace it with an independent, accountable authority. Our state ethics body, J-COPE, was designed to fail. Maybe that's why it's known as J-Joke. Not J-COPE, but all across the state, it's known as J-Joke. It's embarrassing. Its members owe their appointments to the officials they are supposed to police. It is saddled with complex rules designed to prevent investigations or imposing punishments. The new ethics board I propose would be chosen in an independent, rigorous, and open manner. Its manners would be screened to avoid conflicts of interest. And this new board can act without providing notice to the target of an investigation. Second, we must enhance the Attorney General's power. As the Attorney General, I must rely on a referral from the governor to investigate ethics, election, and campaign finance law cases. I cannot act independently. My authority comes from the governor. The legislature should give my office and all future attorney generals permanent power to investigate and, where appropriate, prosecute public corruption. An independent authority to conduct civil investigations, to issue and to enforce administrative subpoenas, and provide public reports. Third, we must strengthen the financial disclosure system. All state employees who earn more than a certain amount or make policy are required to fill out an annual disclosure form. But these disclosures are not made available to those who need to see them, the general public and the press. And a small fraction of the forms are audited each year as a sample. The counsel of each agency should automatically review all disclosures and should be required to report any suspicious cases to the Inspector General, an independent Inspector General. Financial disclosure forms should be automatically provided to the state tax department and analyzed for referral to the Inspector General where appropriate. Those are some of my suggestions, and some of them are already present in existing legislation. I want to thank the advocates who are working on these issues, including Reinvent Albany, Common Cause, Citizens Union, NYPIRG, and the League of Women Voters. And I also want to give a shout out to Senator Kruger and Senator Biaggi and many others who have put forth comprehensive plans for the change that we seek. I thank them for their leadership. When I was elected Attorney General, I vowed to act without fear or favor, to hold the powerful accountable, whether they're Republican or Democrat, industry or not-for-profit, and work in the interest of all New Yorkers, and to serve and not to be served. And that is what I have tried to do in my role. When I was a young woman, I read a book entitled Simple Justice, The History of Brown versus Board of Education, where a small band of attorneys decided to take on legal segregation in this nation. That book inspired me to attend Howard University, which was the laboratory for that change. At Howard, the priorities of our studies was social justice and profiles in courage. At Howard, I came to understand how to use the law both as a sword and as a shield to bend our nation towards fairness and justice. And that is what I've tried to do ever since. That is what I've tried to do in my dedication to public service. My work has been standing up for those who have been attacked, disenfranchised, marginalized, left out under the sunshine of opportunity. And that's what I did as an attorney in the state legislature, negotiating budgets, drafting bills, and working with two houses and the governor then. And that is what I did as a city council member and as public advocate. And that is the focus that I've brought to the office of the Attorney General. I manage more than 1,800 employees in offices across the state, from Buffalo to Suffolk County, including attorneys, investigators, forensic accountants, legal assistants, scientists, and support staff, and one economist. And we get a lot done, and we never shy away from the big fights. We've taken on big pharma, companies taking advantage of workers, charities defrauding their donors, and corrupt government officials. And that includes the most powerful man in the world, both in and now out of office. As you all know, I joined with the Manhattan District Attorney Cy Vance, and we indicted the chief financial officer of the Trump Organization for participating in a 15-year scheme to defraud the government and a long-running illegal payment scheme. And while I cannot say more than that, I can assure you that that investigation remains alive and well. So stay tuned. Last summer, we filed a lawsuit to dissolve the NRA, the National Rifle Association, for its years of illegal self-dealing and financial greed. For years, the NRA's top executives illegally funneled millions out of their charity and into their own pockets to basically fund lavish lifestyles in violation of our charities laws. We've sued to hold the Catholic Archdiocese of Buffalo accountable for its failure to prevent rampant sexual abuses of children. We've taken countless actions to protect our environment from the destruction of climate change. We are protecting our children from the dangers of vaping with a lawsuit against Juul because Juul took a page out of Big Tobacco's playbook. We are fighting for reproductive rights, leading the way in Texas and in Mississippi and here at home, protecting the rights of women. We are protecting the basic element of our democracy, and that is the right to vote, joining with other Democratic attorney generals. We have fought for the rights of New Yorkers, regardless of immigration status, to ensure all people living in the state have access to driver's licenses, public benefits, and all the resources they deserve. And we work every day to address the dangers of gun violence. To date, my office has taken more than 2,200 guns off the streets of New York State. No one can tell me that gun buybacks do not work. I've seen the guns. I've seen the weaponry. We also take down violent criminal rings, individuals engaging in drug trafficking and gun trafficking. These organizations have flooded our state with dangerous and illegal drugs and guns, and they have left a trail of death and destruction in their wake. And my office has worked with law enforcement and federal authorities to put a stop to the newest threat, ghost guns. These are weapons that can be assembled at home from parts that don't have serial numbers and don't need a background check to get one. I'm sure you read just yesterday or the day before about an individual in Harlem where he shot several individuals, and he was using a ghost gun, an illegal ghost gun. We have taken dozens of these firearms off the streets and stopped more than 15 companies from selling these parts in New York, and even some online. And I am proud that since I have become Attorney General, my office, we have recovered more than $2 billion for New York State, and that's with a B, billion for New Yorkers. And as was mentioned, we have recovered up to $1.4 billion from our settlements with the corporate makers and sellers of opioid drugs, because that was a commitment that I made to mothers and fathers who were crying before open caskets. When there are issues that need raising, my office raises its voice. And that is why I decided to visit Rikers Island to see the horrific conditions for myself. And that is why I'm hoping to work more with the federal government to address issues like mental illness and individuals who are unhoused and child poverty in places like Rochester and Buffalo and Syracuse. That's just a fraction of what we do, but there's a common thread in everything that we do. In my office, we are a team of wonderful professionals who put their head down each and every day, and they work together. And we are unafraid, driven only by our commitment to public service, and like that book, to simple justice. To conclude, I want to make a promise that the first, last, and only thing that I will ever consider is what is best for the people of the state and in my country. That's been the promise I made to myself. From the very first day I walked into a courtroom in Brooklyn and decided I wanted to become an attorney. That's been the covenant I've kept with those I have served. From my very first day in public life, our state faces great challenges, but I know we will meet them. I know we can meet these challenges because of all of the talent in this room. New York has the talent, the diversity, and the energy, and the innovation to accomplish anything that we put our minds to. And I know we can meet these challenges because government of, by, and for the people is a cause every New Yorker can agree upon. Government that is good and seeks the good is a cause every New Yorker can agree on. To paraphrase Mayor LaGuardia, there is no Democratic or Republican way to root out corruption. There is no upstate or downstate way to make government work. So let us agree that we will not return to business as usual. No, returning to normal is not the answer. Let us agree to begin a new era of partnership, a new era of commitment to do what is right together. Let us agree to make history, to break ground, to shatter society's self-imposed glass ceilings. And that is exactly what we should do for the people of New York. Let us improve outcomes. Let us lift all boats. Let every child in this state reach their full potential, regardless of their zip code. Let us commit to creating a stronger, more representative government. Let us commit to representing all the different voices of the state, including those in this room. Every single day, as we recover economically, as we crush COVID, as we stand together against climate change, against discrimination, harassment, complacency, let us work together to address the fact that there are so many women living in poverty, equal pay for equal work. We are at the edge of a new era in this state. We must set our sights on the outer edges of what is possible. We are New York, and we will strive towards greatness because it's who we are. I am here to serve, and I hope that all of you will join me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. We have time for a couple of questions, and I'm going to ask one as a closer. I could start with the Chancellor. I'm told you have a question on education for the AG.
Thank you. Thank you for those inspiring words. You mentioned in some of your words your office, and you've been incredibly creative in using settlement funds to advance some key policy issues here in New York. Given the importance of higher ed and how important it is for the city's recovery to have the most educated and trained workforce, I was wondering if your office would consider in the future using some of those settlement funds to create an endowment for SUNY and CUNY to advance scholarship, paid internships, and some trainings for workforce that are not covered by state aid.
Great question, Chancellor. So let me just say that our settlements are tied to the subject matter of the case. So in the case where individuals were engaging in price gouging, we went after one of the largest egg manufacturers in this nation. And we wanted to be creative, and so as a result of our settlement, we got some injunctive relief, but also we got 1 million eggs that I donated to all the shelters all throughout the state of New York. Lead poisoning, we've sued some landlords in upstate New York and in the city of New York, and we use some of those resources to create affordable housing. So it's creative solutions like that. To the extent that we can use some state dollars to support an endowment for public education, particularly focusing on leadership and public service, and using it as a means to talk a little bit about public service in the law. I would be more than happy to look at and see what we can do within our existing budget. Again, if there's a target, unlike yourself and, of course, Ms. Rabb, I doubt very seriously whether we will sue you for anything, but in the event that we do, we can use those resources for an endowment.
All right, do you have some other questions? In that case, I'll ask you on, Ken Dirks. Ken?
Hey, thank you. Thank you for your words.
Thank you.
I have a question on infrastructure.
Yeah.
So for New York State, what do you think are the biggest challenges in spending the federal funds coming in the upcoming infrastructure bill?
I'm so glad you asked that question, because the infrastructure money that comes in, whether it's 3.5, whatever the number they agree upon, and hopefully they agree upon, and hopefully we could reach agreement on our debt ceiling. We have an opportunity with those funds coming in to focus on some major capital projects that can be identified, working with the State Department of Economic Development as well as the city. Create opportunities, particularly in the unions, apprentices, in neighborhoods and in communities that are underemployed and underemployed. And there's pockets of poverty, not just in the city, but in upstate New York. I'm looking forward, again, to working with the government on all 3 levels of government, on where those funds should be spent and on what projects, and how best we can get people back to work, and how best we can inject funds into the economy to put people back to work. We really need to crush this COVID, crush COVID, but most importantly, people need to get back to work, and we need to energize our economy, and we can do that with the help of this infrastructure funds and with the help of the Biden administration. Thank you for that question. I'm really excited about it. This is a wonderful time to think big, to be transformative, and to put people back to work and to address child poverty and poverty, again, the feminization of poverty, which is a real phenomenon.
All right, Eileen.
Good morning, Madam.
Morning.
Attorney General Eileen Safone here from National Grid.
Yes.
Great to see you again today. As part of a progressive energy company really focused on the clean energy future and supporting the goals of the climate goals of the state, National Grid really wants to support the Climate Leadership Consumer Protection Act. One of the challenges we see are the renewables, and locally in the jurisdictions and the land use to get wind and solar. What are some of your visions about helping to connect customers to the energy that we're building?
So that's an excellent question. As you know, when I was the public advocate of the city of New York, I basically led the way as part of serving on the pension board to divest from fossil fuels. We need to invest in more solar, wind, and water. There are some challenges in upstate New York, but again, using the infrastructure funds, providing individuals access to the internet, and also, again, creating opportunities for wind, solar, energy is a major priority of mine. Given these storms, given the increase in these storms, and given the fact that these storms are coming at such a high rate and they're very destructive, we need to get serious about climate change, and all of us need to put our heads together, both the public and private, and so we really need to create more public-private partnerships and focusing on climate change. And so I thank you for that question, and we have an opportunity to do just that with that infrastructure, with the infrastructure funds that we are about to receive, hopefully, assuming the federal government can come to an agreement. But I'm confident, given the fact that Chuck Schumer is at the helm.
Great. Thank you.
Amen. We have a question from one of our young professionals, Chris Dorasinmi.
Good morning, and thank you so much for your remarks.
Hey, Chris.
How you doing? Just building off getting people back to work, what role do you envision moving the state forward, especially in the hardest hit communities? What are your other priorities in addition to addressing poverty and getting the workforce back to work?
So as the Attorney General of the state of New York, as you know, we represent the state. We represent the state, we represent the governor, we represent the state legislature, and we have been in court again to enforce the mask mandates as well as the vaccination mandates, and we have been successful. It's really critically important that if we're going to crush this virus, all of us must be vaccinated. I know that everyone in this room is vaccinated, right? Yeah. Very good. And Chris, you and I have a responsibility. The vaccination rate amongst communities of color is relatively low compared to our white counterparts. And again, it's because the historical experience in this nation with regards to experimental testing of people of color. And so there's fear, there's apprehension. And what you and I have got to do, they need authentic leaders and individuals to speak to them about the mistrust and the distrust that they have currently of government. We need to overcome that. And the only way that we can do it is a one-on-one discussion in our houses of faith and all throughout the city and the state of New York. I'm prepared to do that, and I know, Chris, you are as well. And I hope that everyone, particularly in communities of color, we do the same. We need to crush this virus, and we need to get back again to re-energizing our economy and addressing the challenges that we all face as New Yorkers.
Thank you. So, Madam Attorney General, I have two final questions.
Here it comes.
You got it. But let me start with, so the last 10, 20 years, the leadership in Albany, like our elected officials, have done some things that are astounding, right? And we are proud New Yorkers at ABNY and believe
And the question
in
is?
leadership. What's it going to take to pass this legislation? What can we do? It is the fact that it takes the governor the ability to say you should investigate election fraud is ridiculous. The fact that kind of time and again we have the same problems, but yet these laws don't pass. What's it going to take to get this over the finish line?
Well, I think with regards to, again, giving more power to the Attorney General, I'm in discussions, obviously, with the Speaker and as well as the Majority Leader. We talked about the challenges in investigating corruption, and that the Office of Attorney General has to rely upon a referral from the governor and or in some instances from the controller, and we need independent authority, and I believe that we've made some headway. I know that Assembly Member Clive Vanell, who is here today, is supportive, and other members of the legislature are supportive, and the more that I talk to them one-on-one and discover and inform them of the limitations of our office, the more and more that they are supportive. So one by one, we will get there. So I'm hopeful. I will remain hopeful. I wake up each and every day drunk on hope, and I will continue to be hope. Well, and I don't drink.
Hope is the right segue to this next question. Are you running for governor?
So it was great. It was a wonderful breakfast. I'm so glad that all of you are here. It's a packed room. It really is. I am focusing on my work, putting my head down, serving all of you as the Attorney General, and I must leave you now to pursue that work. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you. All right, I just want to say thanks everybody for coming back. Thank you to your Attorney General, and we hope to see you again soon.